What's good, fam? It's Tuesdays with Tawana. What's going on? Good to see you on this Tuesday. Very happy to see you. Very happy to be here. I feel like coming to America. I'm very happy to be here. Yes, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesdays with Tawana. I am Dr. Tad, your host and your curator for these 30 minutes together where we build community one beautiful episode at a time. Y'all let me know if you can hear me okay. There was one week where I was having problems with my mic, so let me know if I am clear, if you can hear me well. If you cannot, please let me know in the chat. I would greatly appreciate it. It's not a sound. Nope.
Okay. All right. I think we're better now. We started off a little quirky, but I think we're better. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Technical difficulties. So let's try this again. Tuesdays with Tawana, with Dr. Tad, your host and your curator, for this moment where we build community one episode, one womanist episode at a time, where we center Black women and Black beloveds, talking about current events, talking about life, how life be lifing, how the math ain't mathin', and all the things in between. And we do so in a way where I am not before you for these 30 minutes, 25 minutes. I do a lot of talking, but I also invite you into the chat to express concerns, comments, shout outs, all the things, so we can include other voices into this narrative. Um, if you're here for the first time, welcome. These broadcasts are recorded live on Facebook, and then you can find these podcasts on all of your various podcast platforms, on Instagram, on YouTube, and of course on Facebook Live, or on Facebook, period, on my page, or my Dr. Tad Enterprises page, or my personal page, Tawana Angela Davis. So that's our housekeeping for today. I want to open up, of course, making note, holding space for all those who are out there um, protesting for Palestine, in New York, in Colombia. They're speaking up and speaking out. So I am not with them physically, but I am with them here. I am with them on this broadcast, and just honoring you, honoring your voice, honoring your stance, honoring that killing babies, killing mamas, killing families, destroying communities, is inhumane, full stop. And it is a war crime. That is my stance. That is um, my belief. And I say that unapologetically on this platform. And just because I am for um, or against genocide and for the livelihood of my siblings does not necessarily mean like I hate everybody else. I'm fighting for Sudan with my voice, with my presence, with my agency whenever I have the opportunity. Fighting for Haiti, fighting for those in the Congo, and fighting for those right here in these so called United States, where the UN continues to go against humane actions that could stop or impede these war crimes and this genocide. And it's quite disheartening. And we have a voice, and we are exercising that voice, across the nation, across the globe, but particularly in Columbia University in New York. And I hear that NYU has joined in as well. So let us rally together. Let us protect our beloveds. Let us make sure that those who were arrested, that they are freed, that they have legal counsel. There are so many things that you can do if you are not on the ground, if you are not on these streets. There are other things that you can do to help and support humanity and insert humanity back into an inhumane system. So, yeah, food, money, legal counsel, out there in the streets, using your platform to speak truth to power. Um, yeah, there's so much we can do together, beloved. So this is a call for us to come forth, support those that have a platform and agency and are using it for humanity, and calling out or calling in those who are not, those who continue to just, you know, I don't see it, I don't want to talk about it, I don't, that's, it's not cool. And we spend our dollars supporting these beloveds. And yes, it is entertainment, and entertainment is a part of life. We It's a part of life. Hey Jan, good to see you, gorgeous. Thank you for joining. So today, I want to talk about invisible chains. Yeah, I what inspired this moment was, I don't know if it was a commercial or I don't know, I happened to be doing something and I saw a commercial for, it may be a documentary, it may be a series on one of these streaming platforms, but it was about imprisoned people. And the person who was talking to those who are imprisoned and saying that we are going to just open up the cells, the jail cells, and create some semblance of freedom, right? Because we understand that in jail and in prison, you know, you're told when to eat, when to shower, how long to shower, when you get some sunlight, when you're in your cell. So I don't even know what the name of it is, and I haven't seen it, but I immediately thought about the reaction of some of the inmates. And although I saw it for like maybe 10, 15 seconds, when the gentleman said that we are going to open the bars, we are going to open up the cells, and you are just going to be able to come out. And they were like, and some were perplexed, some were like, is this real? You know, others were surprised. Um, and then I thought about how many of us, when chains are broken, when cells are open, when whatever is containing us is now dismantled, how many of us are still living with these invisible chains? How many of us don't know what to do with our newfound freedom, if you will? How many of us would lose the shackles, but still stand in a stance as if the shackles are still there? How many of us, sitting in a proverbial jail cell, or the reality of sitting in a jail cell, and once that cell opens up and the bars slide open, how many of us would still sit there? How many of us stay in toxic relationships when we have tools and resources and safe opportunities to leave? These are not judgmental questions. These are true reflective questions on how many of us still have these invisible chains. How many of us, as Naeem Akbar would say, have these psychological chains of slavery? How many of us are still enslaved to the system because it has been indoctrinated and so deeply rooted into who we are that we don't know how to come up against it, fight against it, have the language to dismantle it, have the courage to speak up and speak out against it? How many of us remain stuck and remain in that bondage? Many of you know I love Law and Order SVU. I love Chicago PD. I love 911. And I'm not a big like crime and drama person. Like I don't watch documentaries and stuff unless I'm with my sisters. Because if they're watching it, then I'm watching it. But to sit home and say, oh, I want to watch this crime show or this First 48 or Married Before, During, and After Lockup. Hey, brother. Glad to see you. Um, so I don't watch those shows. Um, but there was an episode of Law and Order SVU where there was someone who was locked up for a crime that he did not commit. And when they found the actual person who committed the crime, like 20 years later, like 20 years later, um, and he was in front of the judge, and the judge said, you know, we apologize for this miscarriage of justice, and you are now free to go. He put his head down, still had his hands like crossed in front of him as if he still had on shackles, but he was free. He was free. Still had on shackles, and as he walked, he kind of shuffled because when you have shackles on your ankles, you can only take but so much of a big step. Yeah, as a matter of fact, your steps are very small. It's almost like shuffling. And he still walked that way. He still had his head down. He still had his hands in a posture of being shackled. And Finn said to him, hold your head up, my man. You are no longer in chains. You are free. You are a free man. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Because if you are so used to being in a situation that has you with limitations, psychological shackles, invisible chains, and they're not really there, and you can actually do something about it, but you've been in that situation for so long that you don't know what to do. Let me go to another example. And that's why I kind of put trigger warning, not kind of, I did type trigger warning because I also want those listening to take care of themselves as they listen to this. I went to a brick and mortar church on Sunday, and Reverend Tracy Blackman was preaching. It was their sexual assault awareness worship experience. And we all wore denim in support of sexual assault awareness. And Reverend Blackman preached about Tamar. And if you are unfamiliar with the Christian traditional scriptures, Tamar's story is in the Old Testament. I believe it's in Samuel, maybe, but Google is a wonderful thing. And unfortunately, Tamar is raped by her brother. And the topic of the sermon, the theme, the centering point was listen to Tamar. And there are, and it was Alfred Street Baptist Church. You can Google it and they stream and they turn it into a podcast. And it was so empowering, so divine, so um I felt seen. You know, you want to go to a worship experience where you feel seen. You don't feel like, you're being beat up on, because of your lifestyle or your choices or how you show up in the world. You want to show up to a worship experience and feel free and feel seen and feel like you're healing and feel forgiven or be empowered to forgive or all of those things that add value to our lives and in our world. And I felt seen through the sermonic moment. The things that I've been through in my life, the heinous things that I've been through, the things that I've witnessed, the things that I have experienced personally, in that moment I felt seen. And I can only imagine how many people in that space filled with hundreds of people, 1 out of 3 would experience, 1 out of 3 women would experience some form of sexual assault in their lifetime, and 1 out of 4 men. So somebody in that sanctuary was being freed. And then I thought, and not in that moment, of course, but later on, but in that moment, first in that moment, afterward, I had a chance um to see Reverend Blackman face to face. We've seen each other years ago when we were doing um work justice work with an organization, um but so I haven't seen her face to face in a long time, like physically. We've been online together. We do the clearing with Pink Robe Chronicles. If you don't know about Pink Robe Chronicles, you can look it up on Facebook, and you can subscribe to Pink Robe Chronicles the clearing for X amount of dollars a month, and you're invited into a private Zoom space after Melva Sampson's live offering on Facebook Live Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock. Shameless plug. She didn't ask me to do this. This is just because I've been journeying with Pink Robe Chronicles for years now, and I am because they are. So saw Tracy Blackman, and when I hugged her, I just cried. I cried tears of joy. I cried tears of gratitude because in that moment I felt seen. I felt like other people were seen. I felt like people were beginning to get free and understand that there is no shame in what you or they have experienced or what I have experienced. It's not your fault. It is the perpetrator's fault or the abuser's fault or the sexual predator's fault, or we have an opportunity to learn how to place the accountability and responsibility where it belongs, and it does not belong on the person who is on the receiving end of the abuse. No matter what type of abuse it is not your fault. And in that moment, I can only imagine how many people felt seen and free. But now we get to the invisible chains. We can look at it both ways. One, people living in any type of abusive relationship or in war torn communities where they feel like they are stuck. There's nothing that they can do. They don't have food. They don't have water. They don't have ammunition. Their family members are dying. They're scared to walk down the street and they don't know if bombs or is going to be dropped, right? So there's those invisible chains and real chains. So in that moment, I thought about those invisible chains. And then for this moment, I thought about, well, what happens when the chains are broken, when the cell bars are open and you don't know what to do and you don't have the language, so you sit in a posture as if you are still in chains. You sit in a posture as if you are still in a jail cell. You sit in a posture with your head down because you are still reeling from the guilt, the shame, the hurt, the remembering of the abuse, whether it was physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, communal. We're dealing with abuse right now within this country on how they talk about us and how that they are choosing sides with Israel versus Palestine and responding in a punitive way to those who are peacefully protesting. And peaceful protests are now becoming a thing of the past because 3 states have already passed that it's illegal for you to gather in mass numbers to protest. Our freedoms are being taken away. And so we had broken the chains, right? And now they're trying to put the chains back on us. So there's so many levels to this invisible chain. So what I want to leave you with on today is, one, it's so important to know um what's holding you, what's keeping you in bondage, what's keeping you in chains, what is keeping you in that proverbial jail cell. What is it that is keeping you there and keeping that stance? Is it fear? Is it the unknown? Is it self doubt? Is it low self esteem? Is it lack of self love? Two, once you identify what it might be that might be keeping you in bondage with these invisible chains, I encourage you, beloved, to seek help. Seek help from those who love you. Seek help from those professionals that look like you and can walk and journey with you on this path of healing. Identify what it is that you want, identify how this happened and what was imparted in your life, what have you been indoctrinated with so that you stay stuck in these situations, and identify that so that you can now have the remedy and the balm and the language to move forward toward healing. And the third piece to this is truly understanding that you are you are enough. You are amazing. You are special. You are a beautiful human being, and you do not deserve to be in chains. Even in this mass incarceration system, which is the new Jim Crow, there is no room for forgiveness. There is no room for healing. There's no room for learning from decisions. There's no room growth, that everything is punitive and it's all about dollars and cents. So the prison industrial system is now, owned by private organizations, and then they have those um people who are incarcerated then producing goods that we wear, goods that we need, goods that are on our cars, clothing, the list goes on and on, for dollars a day, if that much. And then being charged for things that you need, like soap and sanitary products, which is why Soul to Soul Sisters had to pass a bill that went into law about alternative sentencing for pregnant women and women who, and birthing people who just gave birth, because the heinous conditions of someone having a child on a concrete slab with no medical attention, with a guard saying, oh, work it out, you'll be okay, they'll be here shortly. That's not how we are called to live. We are called to break those physical and invisible chains in community, because I don't know everything, but there is someone else. Like Jan might know something that I don't. So I reach out to Jan, or Larry might know something that I don't. So I reach out to Larry. And now we have three people. And who knows, Jan and Larry may have something that they need from one another, and they'll come together, and then it just keeps building and building and building to the point where there will be thousands of people standing outside of Columbia University versus hundreds of people, because now there was a call, a clarion call for help. So now this is a clarion call for healing for our community. This is a clarion call for us to remove and break the invisible chains and keep telling yourself and affirming that you are enough, that you are loved, that you deserve to be loved well. You don't deserve to have these invisible chains. You don't deserve to be in bondage. You don't deserve to be in a container that keeps you limited, because you are greater than that. You are bigger than that. You are divine. You are smarter than that. Your esteem, it should be high, not for self-aggrandizement or conceit, but because you are a divine human being, fully human and fully divine. So those invisible chains have nothing on you, but you got to have the language to be able to affirm and say, I am enough. And if nobody told you that you are enough, and no one has taken you out of this indoctrination of dehumanization, you get stuck in the oppressor's language. So community is so important. Beloved community is so important. Empowering community is so important. Healing happens in community. Why does healing happen in community? Because healing cannot happen in isolation. When someone is healing from something, it takes a team of people to journey with you on that course of healing. Hence, my diagnosis. I wouldn't be able to just heal by myself in isolation. I needed my family. I needed my doctors. I needed my team. I needed my prayer warriors. I needed the sun. I needed the air. I needed the rest. All of those things. We heal in community so we can also break the invisible chains that have been holding us back and holding us down. The invisible chains that actually make us hug someone like number 45 because he shows up at a Chick-fil-A after he done embarrassed you and dehumanized you and called you an animal. You're taking a photo op. They are in invisible chains because they don't know. They don't know what it is to be worthy and to be able to stand up. I wish everybody in Chick-fil-A, when he came in there, I think it was Chick-fil-A. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's not important. When he walked into the restaurant, I wish everybody would have just turned their back on him. How powerful would that have been with all the cameras? And y'all know he's a narcissist. So imagine if everybody would have just turned their backs on him and said, oh, you are not about to slap the invisible chains on my wrists or my mind or my humanity. Absolutely not. You called my people saying that we from shithole countries. I will not take a photo with you. I will not get excited. No, I do not want your milkshake. Actually, I want you to go get help and go sit down somewhere. Yeah, because us New Yorkers, we know about this dude for a long time. So let us break the invisible chains by being in community and approaching it just as if we are healing in community and where liberation happens in community. Break being liberated from those invisible chains happen in community as well. So, you know, I can't end this podcast without shouting out the New York Knicks, who is up 2-0 to Philly when everybody said we couldn't do it. Us Knick fans, we've been holding on for a long, long time. Eric reminded me in 1999 when we were against the Pacers and how Reggie Miller almost beat us, but we made it to the finals and then lost to the Spurs, but that was okay. And that was a long time ago. We've been holding on. We've been yet holding on. It would be nice if the Pacers could upset whoever they're playing. And then we can play like this rematch and we can beat them. Milwaukee. So yeah, shout out to the New York Knicks. I am a diehard Knick fan. My son is a diehard Knick fan. I don't know about my daughter and my grandson. I don't know where I went wrong. Y'all pray for me because my daughter's a Spurs fan and Ethan is a Golden State Warriors fan. I'm not perfect. I went wrong somewhere. Anyway, invisible chains, beloveds. They're invisible. They're still there. Let's break them. They still need to be broken in community. This is Dr. Tad with Tuesdays with Tawana every Tuesday, 2 o'clock live on Facebook. And you can find it on various podcast platforms, Instagram, YouTube, and of course, right here on Facebook or my Facebook page, Dr. Tad Enterprises. It's always an honor. It's always a blessing to be in community with you and to take time out of my day to share in community. I am because you are. And this is what we do on Tuesdays with Tawana. Thank you for joining. Love y'all dearly. I'm out. Later.